It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Wow, Jay North died. Dennis The Menace.
Yeah.
73.
That's too bad.
That makes me seem old because I'll be scanning through the TV and all of a sudden, I think Sunday morning, Dennis The Menace is on one of the channels. I don't even know which one it is. Okay. And I passed by, and so I remember watching that as a kid, and he was a kid.
Yeah.
And so I never saw Jay North after that. I mean, maybe he was on, I don't know, one of the shows in the 80s or 90s with Danny Bonaducci, Child Stars or something.
I think he did some voiceover in some shows, actually.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
But I hadn't actually seen him in person.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so you say, what do you mean he's dead? He's a kid. No.
Yeah.
And neither are you, Gary.
No. No, that was that version of Dennis the Menace was before my time. I don't even remember seeing it much in reruns.
Oh, it was the best. Yeah. I love Dennis the Menace.
I'd already moved on to Ginger and Marianne.
Well, it was like...
Gilligan's Island.
Well, for us, for us, Mom bought Highlights magazine with Goofus and Gallant.
Yeah.
And we always wanted to be Goofus.
Right.
So at that same time, Dennis the Menace was on, so... Goofus and Dennis the Menace, my brother and I, that's who we wanted to pattern our lives after.
Okay. All right.
Oh my gosh. My mother thought that this will teach them proper manners looking at Highlights magazine.
Right.
Gallant helps his mother do the household chores. Goofus goofs off. And as kids, we preferred the goofing off.
Oh, by far.
So, but yeah, just saw that and went, wow, that's sad.
Yeah.
All right, other news out there, making sure we cover everything. Elon Musk went after the alleged puppet masters behind the anti-Trump demonstrations this weekend after a viral video showed protesters struggling to explain why they believe Donald Trump is a fascist.
Because he is.
Musk put on X, the problem is the puppet masters, not the puppets. In the video, they interviewed one person who said he just does everything he wants. He's a convicted felon. You know, that's all I know, one protester said in the video. After tripping over why he believes Trump is a fascist while holding a sign reading, "The fascist Trump regime must go." Wow, the footage was recorded by Ted Goodman, a political strategist. One of the things he's trying to do is control the media. Think about this. You accuse Trump of attempting to control the media after the Democrats and the censorship?
It took them all this time. Biden had to be out of office before they actually realized or admitted, I won't say realized, before they admitted that Biden was never suitable for office. Who controlled the media?
I know. It's so...
Are you kidding me?
Trump's trying to control the media. We need the Democrats back in because the Democrats never attempted to control the media.
Right.
The Democrats were attempting to put in a disinformation czar who was known for all of her disinformation and lies.
Yeah.
That's what she was known for.
Right.
And it blew up in their faces. They wanted an official part of the government to censor what was going on. Oh, you heard that Meta and Facebook and Instagram done with any third-party fact-checking.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's good.
Right? Yeah.
You know, that
should be.
You know, that's the whole thing when we talk about Trump. We knew this. We knew there was a possibility that the whole tariff thing would come. And we had said a long time ago, so I don't think anybody in our audience is that's been long-time listeners, they know. I mean, whether I was cleaning toilets back in my junior and senior year of high school, When I was a bill collector, when I was a steel worker, I always had I was always a free market person.
Mm-hmm.
I was studying that very early in my life, economics. And again, that I would say that a lot of that came from my dad, as to, looking at markets and how they worked and what you actually wanted. But not surprised that Trump was going to do this because, as we have stated, and it was interesting because you had the Trump, as what I call the always Trumpers, that he never does any wrong, were mocking other conservatives and saying, why are you angry at Trump? He's always held this opinion. Well, we've known that. And then these people started running back. We've known what his opinions have been. Are you just finding that out? We still disagree with them, but we know because he's held a pro-tariff position and protectionist ideas since, good God, probably 50 years, right?
Yeah. And the whole trade imbalance thing.
Exactly. So for us, I mean, Trump has done so many good things. And this is why this is so disheartening. You said it last week. You said it would be a shame if the biggest comeback in American political history, which has done so much good, cleaned up the border like that,
Yeah.
done, stop the weaponization of government, ensuring that the press, can be a free press, getting government out of it.
Right.
Letting them do it. The whole thing with NPR and PBS is the fact that government shouldn't be involved in the media at all.
Right.
And that's why we said with Republicans last week.
And Trump controls the media.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why the whole thing with, NPR and PBS, and you and I said it, I don't care whether they agree with me. No money goes to the media.
Right.
You've got states doing that. We need to keep the local media alive, so the state is going to give them money. No. Stop it. Nope.
Yes.
No money. I don't care whether they agree with me or don't agree with me. No money to the media. No taxpayer dollars to the media. None.
Because they would apply that to Truth Social if they were in trouble financially, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We need to keep it alive. I'm sure they would. There would be a rally. We're against oligarchs, but we kind of like Truth Social. It's and where I hope this would go is that the administration comes in and Trump comes in and says, all right, we've reached deals and it's going to be truly reciprocal and that's where we're going to go. And then he leaves it. Because if it gets to the point where the remedy is the GOP in the House and Senate have to take some sort of action, then you're splitting the party at that point, at least for the next 4 years. You're going to have a battle on just about every front at that point because Trump's loyalists will not accept that. And then the constituents in each district, for those in the GOP in the House, and in each state for those in the Senate GOP, they're going to have to listen to whatever's going on at home. And the efforts for what the rest of his agenda at that point come to all but a halt.
Well, you and I think about what Trump said yesterday, and when I woke up, I couldn't believe it. Because what he was saying is nothing's about reciprocal tariffs.
Right.
Nothing. And we knew it when he came out last Wednesday with what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that's Wednesday. Monday already, man. Yeah. Time flies. Mm-hmm. It was clear because it was nothing to do. His formula had, and by the way, a ton of Trump surrogates, the always Trumpers, have no idea that's what he did. Even yesterday, they weren't. Right. It's about reciprocal tariffs. No, it's not. Reciprocal tariffs are not even, it's not about that at all. In fact, I had to explain to friends of mine that the list up there was not the tariffs that other countries had. They had no idea. They had no idea. And we're not really inquisitive to find out what it was.
Right.
It was simply, well, it's unfair, and Trump said it. It's like, well, look at it. Those aren't tariffs. This got nothing to do. Their formula for putting tariffs on other countries had nothing to do with the tariff rate against the United States. It had to do with, and the president, that's one thing I will say from last Thursday, he clarified that last night. It's got nothing to do with tariffs. It all has to do with Trump stated last night he wants even trade between every single country and the United States. You want to panic the markets in the United States? And he said, that's what we're going to do. That's it. You want to panic the markets? Everyone knows that's impossible. You can't do that. And so you've just sent the message that this isn't short term. This is long term.
Here's the quote from last evening. I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that because to me, a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses, or we're at worst going to be breaking even.
That's impossible to do.
It's impossible based on what other nations produce, what we produce, what we will never produce in this nation. Population, the formula for that is impossible to reach. It's not going to happen. If you want to talk about reciprocal tariffs, tariff per tariff, politically, you can get that you can get to that point and not suffer a huge political drop-off. You're still going to impact the economy, but you could get away with that. But that's not what he's talking about. He's made it very clear. This is all about trade deficits and surpluses, and you'll never get to that point of being even.
I believe this was before Wall Street Journal wrote, President Trump, this is before he said this is not about reciprocal tariffs. This is about trade imbalance and that everything must be even with every country. Because this was before that happened, though. President Trump isn't consistent about what he wants from his mammoth new tariffs, and that may be an opening for trading partners to test his occasional rhetoric about desiring reciprocal trade. Call his bluff and offer zero tariffs on all bilateral goods and services. Israel already did that. They're saying, what, Vietnam already agreed to that? Well, Vietnam agreed to it. Did the United States agree to it?
Right.
Granted, this is a long shot. We've long thought Mr. Trump's reciprocal line is mainly political spin intended to mollify Republicans and businesses that his tariffs may not be permanent. Wall Street bought this line to its painful regret until last week. The truth is, Mr. Trump loves tariffs for their own sake, and he really seems to believe the U.S. will prosper by making or growing everything that it consumes only in the 50 American states. That's the message of his chief tariff spinners. Peter Navarro and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick are delivering. Forget about negotiation. Mr. Trump mostly sounds that same message he posted on Thursday to the many investors coming into the United States and investing massive amounts of money. My policies will never change. But never doesn't really ever mean never in Mr. Trump's mind. A day later, as the financial markets kept falling, he sent out this Truth Social, just had a very productive call with the General Secretary of the Communist Party in Vietnam, who told me Vietnam wants to cut their tariffs down to zero if they are able to make an agreement with the United States. I thanked him on behalf of the country and said I look forward to a meeting in the near future. No doubt Mr. Trump was trying and failing to stop the market bleeding, but this is also a trade opening for Vietnam and the rest of the world. One option is retaliation, which China did. The other is offer zero tariffs and see what the president does. We found out after last night that doesn't mean anything. As you noticed when he talked about Vietnam, he never said, well, they're dropping their tariffs, we're going to drop ours.
Right.
That's not the case.
Right.
He wants tariffs on all countries not to come into the United States and do business.
Right.
Yet they take our business. That's not going to fly. You've just sent that message to every country. I want a trade war.
And it's permanent.
And it's permanent, yeah.
You're not going to reach an even.
No, it's impossible.
So
I
that's
couldn't
permanent.
believe. I was like, that has to be the Babylon Bee. When I first read that headline as I'm waking up, I'm like, that can't be true. It's like, it's true.
Yeah.
Exactly what he said. That's the quote. The quote he made is a quote you just said. It's impossible to get to. This is where companies now will start and investors will start to panic because they're like, you just told us there's no end to this because what you say, because we've always been asking, what's the end goal? He just told us. And the end goal is impossible. Cannot happen.
Which means things aren't going to change.
Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Elevated drought coverage across the country per the first U.S. drought monitor for April. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey.
We continue to see well over 40% of the country, the specific number for April 1st, 43.4% of the lower 48 states in drought. That is more than twice what we would historically expect to see at any given time of year.
However,
that is down 1 percentage point from what we saw a month ago. On March 4th, our number was 44.4%.
Rippey says despite the slight month-over-month change in national drought coverage numbers, there was big and offsetting movements by region.
We did see some further improvement from California to the northern Intermountain West. We also saw market improvement in the Great Lakes and northeastern states in terms of drought coverage. But unfortunately, we did see worsening conditions in the central and southern Great Plains and also the Southwest, seeing some further deterioration.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks. Appreciate it. Let's head to you. We go to Jake in Tennessee. Jake, you're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
Very good. Very good.
Awesome. Hey, I think one thing we can't forget is that Donald Trump is a businessman. I mean, yeah, he's a politician now, but he's also a businessman. And
I don't care.
I've owned my own
Whoa. Stop it there. Stop it. Stop it there. George Soros is a businessman. Should I agree with him? Does he know what he's talking about when it comes to socialist economics?
Absolutely not.
All right. Then
a
businessman means nothing to me. It's what your economic policy actually is.
Agreed. But let me finish what I was saying real quick.
Go ahead. Okay.
So if I'm going out to buy a horse and there's two horses there, I'm going to go for the horse that I want second. First, I'm going to ask for the first horse and ask absurd, stupid things so that they're happy to sell me the second horse when it comes time to get the horse that I really want. So if he's out here asking for absolutely impossible things, and I'm not a Trump nut, you know, I mean, I'm glad he's doing good things, but if he's out here asking for absurd, stupid things, and he knows it's impossible, and everybody's telling him it's impossible, then I'm waiting to see what everybody comes around and they're like, okay, man, you're insane. I'm not willing to do that. And he's like, okay. And they come back with something else as a group. And then he's like, yeah, I think we would take that. It puts us in a better situation. I could see him doing that, especially if what you're saying right now is that everything he's asking for is impossible. I think he's just coming back for something better.
Okay, so I'm supposed to trust him as a businessman after he renegotiated NAFTA and said it was the best trade deal ever, and now says the trade deals that we have with Canada and Mexico are complete crap. And he is the only one that
honestly, I'm not saying to trust him because he's a politician. Honestly, he is. And there is messed up ideas, but I am saying maybe that's his train of thought. I'm not saying that I'm trusting him to do this.
Yeah, but you're right. But what? No. I think that when you go into a deal, I never did any deal where I sold BS to people ever.
Thanks, Jake.
Did you, Eric?
No.
Never did that.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
And that's how I negotiate.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. You know, just to the last caller, thank you so much. Appreciate it. But just to let you know, I always get irked when somebody uses a label of a person, just like Elon Musk went after the guy who said, "Don't you understand? Peter Navarro has a degree, has a degree in economics from Harvard." Elon Musk went, "So? That means nothing. That's a bad thing. That's not a good thing if you've got an economics degree from
Not something you want to brag about these days.
From Harvard." So that's why I just stopped that right there, because someone says you're a businessman, it doesn't matter. George Soros is a businessman. You got billionaires that were donating to the Democrats. So whether you're in business or a billionaire, it doesn't mean that you're making the right deal every time. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you understand economics.
Sometimes those deals don't work out.
Sometimes they don't work out.
Sometimes they end in bankruptcy.
Right.
Which has happened for Donald Trump. The point is, there are good deals, good decisions, bad decisions.
Right. And the difference in this decision is if you make an individual business decision, which he was talking about, by the way, I would never bid on the horse I don't want. I
never do.
But we know we've known what Trump's beef has been for the longest time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the other thing, too. You're not walking into this negotiation blindfolded. I don't know this guy. He wants to sell me this product. Boom, we're negotiating. We know what Trump has thought about trade for the longest time.
Right.
We know what Lutnick, and we know especially what Peter Navarro thinks about trade, because we've already gone through an administration with them where Trump actually brought in Larry Kudlow and Steve Moore to be his advisors that were more anti-tariff.
Right.
That didn't happen in this administration, which made everybody think, Navarro believes, as I called him a couple of weeks ago, an idiot. And I think Elon Musk was very close to saying those things about him yesterday. But the Wall Street Journal may be right. Maybe, it looks like Trump believes that we can produce everything in the United States that we need in the United States. And that's what we should do. And we should tariff our way to do it. Because he has changed the goal. How many times has he changed what the goal is? I don't know, 10, 11 times over the last month as to what the goal actually is. And it's only been in the last 5 days where we found out. And the other thing is, too, when you're negotiating, don't put in obvious falsehoods that everybody knows is a falsehood. When he held up that sign with the tariffs of the other countries, those weren't the tariffs of the other countries.
No. That was a trade deficit formula.
Right.
They used.
It was a trade deficit formula. It was not a tariff formula at all, yet he called it a tariff formula. In negotiations, one of the first things you look at is, and you and I've dealt with this many times before, are you negotiating in good faith? Is there a good faith negotiation? When it's obvious that you're attempting to cook the books.
Yeah.
And by doing that and calling it a tariff that he did in that big sign that he held up, that everybody looked at it immediately and said, what the hell are they talking about? That's not the tariffs of those countries. Why do they have the tariffs? And then who was it? I forgot who figured it out. Somebody actually.
Well, the Wall Street Journal was doing live updates on that day, and it was fairly early on when they said, wait a minute. As we were watching this and looking at the chart, we started noticing something. And they were the first that I saw. And then by the time we went on the air that night, pretty much everybody was on that formula. So that was early on. That was actually, as it was happening, they were doing that live update. So probably within an hour of that, they posted that formula of what they thought, what they came up with.
And then when they said, well, and we're only going to charge them half of their tariff rate, and that wasn't true. We were actually charging them, most of the countries, more than the tariffs that they were putting up against us.
Right.
And so when you don't argue truthfully, when you don't negotiate truthfully, you're not building credibility. When you break, I think if you have, there's, I think, 12 bilateral trade agreements that Trump broke when the tariffs went into effect by Saturday without negotiating. He broke the agreements. 12 of them when he put the tariffs on.
Mm-hmm.
I just read that he's not tariffing Canada or Mexico from USMCA. I didn't find that out till like Saturday. Somebody put that in there that they're not tariffing Canada and Mexico, on it. So you negotiate in good faith. You can tell the world what you want. He now has told the world what he wants.
Yeah.
And he's done it twice.
Right.
I want every country to have the exact same trade agreements.
Or for us to have a surplus.
Or for us to have a surplus, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry, that's what I meant. It's either the exact same across the board or we have a surplus.
Right.
Which means, you notice when Vietnam said and Israel said, we're willing to drop, Israel dropped all tariffs. Vietnam said, we'll drop all tariffs. Trump didn't say, fine, we have an agreement, we'll drop all tariffs. He didn't say that because that's not what he wants.
Right.
And so if we get full free trade, I'll be happy. It's not what their goal is. They're stating what their goal is right now, I believe.
Right.
And showing it with their behavior. They've said it now, and the behavior in what they did last Wednesday shows what they want. And so if you believe it's a great negotiating tactic, we'll find out. Well, but we know the history of Navarro, Lutnick, and Trump. We know what their goal's always been. That's the difference.
Well, as individuals, we know what they believe. We know what Trump believes and has believed for decades. And the trade deficit is a real thing. That's what he believes. If that's part of his core.
Yeah.
If that's his truth, I don't expect him to sway from that. He would be very, very reluctant to do so. And there's no way to balance that. There is no way to get to even trade.
No, it's impossible.
Which tells me it's permanent.
Not just overall with every country.
Right.
That's what he wants. Every single country, it must be even or we have a surplus.
Right. There's no way to get there.
Well, there is.
The Great Depression, too, would have a mighty surplus.
Yes, you can get there if we had surpluses in the depression in the depression.
Right. At the very least, it would be even because nobody would be buying anything.
It was funny. It's so funny. Somebody posted, "There's so much disinformation out there. Let me give the disinformation." And it was like the Smoot-Hawley tariffs is where tariffs originated, and it helped get rid of the depression within 10 years. People are just last guy going, shut up. You're saying there's disinformation. Tariffs were not invented in 1930.
No. No.
And if you're saying the great thing about tariffs is they get you out of a depression in 10 years, that's not a good thing.
Well, the thing is that you look at this week. We've had 2 full trade sessions since the tariffs were announced. Keep in mind, the tariffs were announced at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Close of business, close of the trading day. So we've had 2 full sessions, Thursday and Friday. I don't expect much to change this week. That gives us 5 more full trade sessions. And if the trend continues, then we start approaching very quickly 30,000 on the Dow. And there are already conversations on Capitol Hill that are happening. They're not going to talk about it yet because, again, once you do that, once you open that door, if Congress has to get involved here, you have a split in the party that affects the rest of Donald Trump's second term and his agenda.
Wall Street Journal talked about normally you'd expect some rebound after 2 days of extraordinarily decline, even if it's a dead cat bounce after such a huge sell-off. But there are canaries in the tariff mine that are warning of economic trouble ahead. One canary is the biggest sell-off in the junk bond market since 2020, the pandemic year. The premium that investors demand for holding high-risk corporate debt rose a full percentage point last week after Mr. Trump's tariff assault, according to ICE Bank of America Index. At a minimum, this is a sign investors are hedging their bets on the economy. At worst, it is a signal of fear that tariffs and their consequences could trigger defaults. Treasury Secretary wanted a lower yield on a 10-year Treasury note, which he now has, but that yield can fall in anticipation of slower growth as much as from lower inflation. We hope someone at Treasury is paying attention to the corporate debt market. The second canary is a flight of the U.S. dollar. Typically, times of uncertainty lead to a flight to safety, which usually means U.S. dollar assets. This time, the dollar has fallen against the euro, the yen, and the British pound. The dollar rebounded some on Friday, but further dollar weakness would be a bad omen. The third canary is a shift across Wall Street on recession risks. Our friends at Evercore ISI see the tariffs as a substantial drag on growth. They've reduced their GDP growth estimate for the year to 1%, raised the possibility of recession this year to 40%. J.P. Morgan's economists now predict a recession, even though a mild one, at minus 0.3%, with jobless rate rising to 5.3% from 4.2% in March. More or less every economist not working for Navarro in the White House has lowered estimates of growth in the wake of the Trump tariffs. This isn't the boom Mr. Trump promised working-class voters. That's the other thing here when you look at this, what you have here. You've got, of course, the stock market, people looking 401ks, the slowing of economic growth. You've got and the political cost of it.
Yeah, sure.
The political cost of the fact that we just came out of high inflation. We still don't have inflation under control. And now the worry is stagflation, which can only be blamed if we head that way. This is the risk the president's taking. The only one who will get blamed for it is Trump and the Republicans.
Yep.
You can't point this at anyone else.
Right.
And we only have, you think about it, right now, a year from right now, we'll be in campaign mode. And there's no way you're going to reorganize the economy of the world in a year. That's not happening.
No, it's not. And, you look at all the incredible work outside of this, you look at all the incredible work and how quickly it's happened in the Trump administration. That's not what people remember.
And how blunt and mostly honest in all the other issues out there he has been.
Yep. And people want their buying power returned to what it was. That's what they want.
Yeah.
When he says we have to take our medicine, that's not what people are looking to do. They want relief from recent record high inflation. They want relief from high prices, not more high prices.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Steve just wrote me and said, do you think Donald Trump is trying to destroy the country? Absolutely not. I think he believes this is his economics. This is what he believes works. He believes that I agree probably with what the Wall Street Journal said based on what Trump's beliefs have always been and the behavior last week and what he said last night. He believes that if the United States tariffs everything and we have a trade surplus with everyone through tariffs that makes product more expensive for us, that's what builds a successful economy. I think the major fallacy of that is the fact that a very critical, important part of the economy is having the best productivity and efficiency, which gives you lower prices, and tariffs does the opposite of that. You can never maximize your economic output with tariffs. You just can't. I truly believe he thinks you can. So I don't think this is at all something where Trump is trying to destroy the United States at all. I think he truly believes it.
Right. He thinks there's going to be a long-term payoff.
Yeah.
He's said that many times in recent days, that we have to go through this, but there's going to be a long-term payoff.
No, I think everything that he's doing that I agree with, which is the majority, is positive for the country. He just has always believed that tariffs make a successful economy.
Right.
I would disagree with that wholeheartedly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.